In our D&D world-building project Therenor, many of its inhabitants were born with a deep spiritual connection to the realm, one that has drastically adapted their forms to suit the regions they find themselves in. In the past, we've shown 3 examples of this: the Sandalv, who reside in camps deep within the realm's deserts, the Vanderpee, who spend their days scaling the titan trees of the north, and the Caudite, whose communities rest on the banks of Therenor's subterranean rapids. Today we'll be looking at 4 new playable races, their unique features, the roles they play in the realm, and what circumstances might lead them to a life of adventuring. If these races interest you, you could draw or write a story about one and enter it into our Discord server's art and writing contest. Our first video on this had a similar contest, where winners received both custom art and handmade resin dice based off their characters. Writing and art submissions will have separate prize pools, and I'll talk more about the rules at the end of this video. With that being said, let's get right into it. To find our first race, we return to a familiar region of endless muddy fields and fertile grasses, one where the ever-ravenous hill giants roam, scavenging and feeding with careless abandon. Just below the surface of these rolling hills, under the thunderous footsteps of giants, lies a stoic race of subsurface dwellers, whose hardened claws move and mold earth with ease. Scattered throughout the expanse in small family groups, the Hesthaugs are a mammalian race well acclimated to life in the soil. With shovel-like claws and calloused, leathery forelimbs, they dig their way through the expanse, hollowing out subterranean dens which can reach depths of 60 feet or more. Their powerful, stout back legs, useful for removing upturned earth as they expand outwards. This body plan renders them efficient excavators. A Hesthaug's nasal cavity is lined with fine hairs that prevent dust inhalation, and their nostrils are capable of sealing themselves for extra measure. Able to pinpoint the vibrations of nearby footsteps, they're keenly aware of their surroundings, though the ever-vigilant Hesthaug may still routinely emerge from their burrows, peering above the expanse's wild grasses with their long necks to watch for any incoming threats. The Hesthaug are a stationary race, and their deep connection to their home and the people they share it with make their dens the center of their worlds. A Hesthaug den is many-chambered, each room with a specific purpose, such as eating, crafting, sleeping, or talking. A single Hesthaug den has enough room to house anywhere between 2 to 15 individuals, usually a pair, their children, and any subsequent grandchildren. Hesthaug dens also feature numerous well-hidden entrances, as well as a multitude of false entrances which lead to dead ends, underground pitfalls, or in the case of exceptionally paranoid individuals, rooms booby-trapped with sharpened spears, venomous creatures, or even magic runes. Given the vastness of the Great Expanse, Hesthaug rarely interact with smallfolk outside of their immediate family, and may go months or even years without an encounter. Despite their isolation, most Hesthaugs will show generosity to a stranger, albeit fleeting, a night's stay within their dens or a meal to share before they're abruptly sent off. Having such easy access to rich deposits of clay, the Hesthaug have developed a deep culture centered around the creation of tablets, pots, and other vessels. A simple Hesthaug home may house hundreds of pieces of pottery, each custom piece recounting an important event or memory in a family's life. While the entrances of a Hesthaug den may be difficult to spot, recently thrown pots and tablets left to dry on flattened patches of grass are a telltale sign one may be near. Hesthaug mystics may use these pots in their rituals, scattering them upon the ground and reading the fates from the broken pieces. While socialization is limited in most Hesthaug lives, some make the most out of the rare occasion, eager to trade pottery, plains grass-woven talismans, earthen idols, and especially a harsh alcoholic spirit called Kafnavaten. Distilled from tubers found throughout the region, the drink is well known in Therenor to make even a dwarf's head spin. Not all Hesthaug live such an isolated lifestyle. More social individuals may choose to leave their family den and travel the expanse in search of a new, larger community. For most, this is a halfling town, a series of chambers built into and below the hills spanning miles. In these towns, Hesthaugs are welcomed with open arms, their muscled builds and excavating prowess a powerful boon for this subterranean life. Hesthaugs make up approximately a quarter of your average halfling town's population, and their cooperation is well known throughout the realms. Aside from excavation, Hesthaugs are an important defense against roaming hill giants, the burrowing folk popping out of the ground, spooking hill giants away from their initial paths. Multiple connected burrows surrounding a halfling town means a team of coordinated Hesthaug can safely divert the thunderous footfall of giants, allowing the green-thumbed halflings to become emboldened in their gardening, growing both surface and underground crops. In recent years, Hesthaug have seen a sudden drop in numbers, as hill giants have since learned they can simply consume the Hesthaugs which make attempts to scare them, a revelation brought upon them by Brock, the hill giant king, no doubt. As a Hesthaug, you gain the following traits. Your constitution score increases by 2, and your strength score increases by 1. If you're using the 2024 ability score rules, increase one stat by 2 and another by 1, or increase 3 stats by 1. Additionally, you know how to speak the languages Common and Halfling. If using 2024 rules, pick Common and 2 standard languages of your choice. Your size is medium and you have a base walking speed of 30 feet. You also have dark vision out to a range of 60 feet. As a Hesthaug, your first racial trait is Hill Attunement. Life under the soil has made you hyper-aware of subsurface vibrations. You have tremor sense with a range of 10 feet. Additionally, you get the ability to strike with your digging claws. Your unarmed strikes now deal 1d6 plus your strength modifier slashing damage, instead of the normal bludgeoning damage your unarmed strikes make. Finally, you get the racial trait Submerge. As a bonus action, you can use your claws to submerge yourself just below the surface, so long as you are standing on earth, mud, snow, ice, or sand, at the cost of half of your movement speed. Until you emerge, you gain the benefits of half cover, and have advantage on dexterity saving throws. While submerged in this way, your movement speed is 10 feet, and you leave a visible trail of disrupted terrain as you travel. This trail does not count as difficult terrain for others. Moving in this way allows you to ignore the effects of difficult terrain, as well as move through other creatures' spaces. It's important to mention that this movement speed is not considered a burrow speed. While submerged, you cannot attack or cast magic spells which require somatic components, but you still maintain concentration on spells cast before your submerge began. You can choose to end the submerge with either a bonus action or by taking the attack action with your digging claws. While Hesthaugs are generally an isolated race which prioritizes their families above all else, there's still many reasons as to why one would adventure. Perhaps a Hesthaug may have sought out the thrill of a larger community with the halflings, but has since found even this to be too dull for their tastes. Another Hesthaug may have been forced from their home through some deep betrayal, and now they seek revenge on those who wronged them. A Hesthaug may even be the last of their lineage, either through natural means or the will of Brock, deciding instead to wander than remain somewhere which is a constant reminder of what they have lost. Whatever the reason for adventuring, Hesthaugs excel in many fields. Spellcasters can concentrate on devastating AoE spells with the extra safety provided to them through submerging, and classes like barbarians and monks can travel even further while submerged. Monks especially synergize well, emerging with unarmed strikes using their digging claws, before submerging once again to maintain those consistent bonuses from their racial ability. To find our next race, we voyaged north, far beyond the great expanse through Therenor's colossal mountain peaks. For past this great wall of stone splitting the realm lies a world of biting cold enveloped in hoarfrost. Deep in Therenor's tundras, huddled in frozen caves filled with relics of ancient civilizations past, the Iceborn stand watch. Conjured from the unstable magic expelled from a frost giant's heart shortly after death, the Iceborn are constructs of frost and viscera, whose machine-like perseverance has enabled them to thrive in the glacial plains and snow-capped summits of the realm. Wide and dwarf-like in body shape, Iceborn are sexless, sporting chiseled, icy beards and impressive tusks, reminiscent of the frost giant which they were birthed. These constructs can range in size, from a few inches short of 3 feet to 5.5 feet tall. They have no need for food, water, or rest, for the center of every Iceborn is a core shard, a sub-zero piece of their frost giant's heart which grants them their form and powers their bodies. In death, a single frost giant can produce up to 30 Iceborn, who instinctively make their way back to their giant's lair. Each Iceborn holds but a fragment of the knowledge their frost giant once held in life, and the single shared purpose among them is to protect their late giant's hoard with their lives, lest it is lost again to ice and time. Void of emotion, Iceborn choose to remain with their brethren not out of familial bonds, but simply because it's the most logical option. They will protect their hoard unfalteringly, even should it mean sacrificing themselves in the process. Unlike standard smallfolk, death isn't the end for an Iceborn. Upon taking fatal damage, they shed their exterior in a frigid blast of ice and snow, leaving behind that core shard. Should this shard remain in freezing temperatures for a few days, the Iceborn will rejuvenate, living once more. This process doesn't come without a cost, however. Each time an Iceborn rebirths, a piece of their late giant's memory is lost, their connection to their brethren and the Horde weakens, and their view of the world becomes ever so slightly less rigid. Iceborn have come to view these rebirths as new chapters in their lives, and individuals which have rebirthed numerous times are considered sages among their groups. Over the course of their many lives, Iceborn will steadily shift from emotionless intelligence to wizened curiosity, eventually reaching a point where they have more in common with smallfolk beyond the mountains than they do with the Iceborn they share their cave with. And so, they leave, seeking a new purpose. As an Iceborn, you gain access to the following racial traits. Your intelligence score increases by 2, and your constitution score increases by 1. Alternatively, you can increase one score by 2 and increase a different score by 1, or increase 3 different scores by 1. You know how to speak the languages Common and 2 other languages of your choice, and your creature type is a construct. Your size can also either be small or medium, and you have a base walking speed of 30 feet. Your first racial trait, Ancient Mind, makes you proficient in history checks. It also allows you to quickly learn new languages, instruments, and tools, given you've had the time to commit them to memory. You can become proficient in 1 tool, 1 instrument, and learn 1 language, so long as you have spent a long rest reading about, listening to, or observing someone use the tool, instrument, or language. Additionally, you can spend 10 minutes transferring some of this knowledge to a willing creature. Choose one of the tools, musical instruments, or languages you have learned from this trait. Your target gains proficiency in that trait, however you lose it. This effect lasts until your next long rest. You can learn an additional tool, musical instrument, and language at 8th level and again at 16th level. You also gain the racial trait Primordial Ice. You are resistant to cold damage. In addition, you do not need to drink, eat, or breathe, nor do you require sleep and may remain conscious during a long rest. You still need to refrain from strenuous activity to gain the benefit of the rest, however. Additionally, you benefit from several spells that preserve life but normally wouldn't affect constructs, such as Cure Wounds, Healing Word, Mass Cure Wounds, Mass Healing Word, and Spare the Dying. Your third racial ability, Permafrost, causes the path you walk to freeze over to accommodate your presence. You can cast a modified version of the Water Walk spell on yourself as an action. This version of the spell only affects water, snow, or mud, and as you walk on these surfaces, you leave a trail of icy ground 5 feet in diameter. This icy surface is strong enough to act as a platform for a size medium creature. Creatures other than you which step on this ice for the first time must make a DC 10 dexterity save or fall prone. On a successful save, they may travel as if crossing over difficult terrain. Ice created by this feature lasts for 1 minute before melting, but may also be destroyed through other means, such as through damage from a fire spell. After you use this feature, you may not use it again until you finish a short or long rest. The Iceborn's final racial trait is Shatter. Upon death, your body shatters in a blast of frozen shrapnel, damaging all nearby creatures and exposing your core shard. Each creature within 5 feet must make a DC dexterity save equal to 10 plus your con modifier and your proficiency bonus. taking 2d6 cold damage and 1d6 slashing damage on a failed save, or half on a successful one. This damage increases by 2d6 and 1d6 at 8th level, and again at 16th level. Your core shard is a size tiny object with an AC of 10 and health equal to your level. This shard counts as your corpse for the purpose of fulfilling the dead creature requirement for revival spells, like Revivify, Raise Dead, Reincarnate, Resurrection, and True Resurrection. If the shard is not destroyed, storing it in freezing temperatures for 1d4 days restores your body as if it was affected by the Revivify spell. If the shard is destroyed, you lose the ability to be revived in this way. Most Iceborn found outside the tundra are older, having rebirthed dozens of times before making the decision to abandon their hordes. They're most commonly seen as adventurers, the ever-roaming lifestyle perfect for a race which never eats or sleeps. Of course, not all adventuring Iceborn are old. Young Iceborn are an exceptionally rare sight outside of the tundra, but they do exist. Some of Therenor's most infamous nobility take advantage of an Iceborn's inherent nature to use them as servants in their homes, hiring teams of adventurers and giant hunters to slaughter a frost giant, collect its hearts and relics, and transport it to their homes. Iceborn created in this way imprint on the noble's property, treating it as their den and protecting its contents with their lives. Should something happen to this den, or the Iceborn were to learn the truth, they may choose to make their way to the tundra. Frost giant hearts which have prematurely detonated en route to their destination may result in shards outside of their usual freezing temps. These pieces may be destroyed, collected, or traded, scattering throughout the realm. Should any of these shards manage to freeze, an Iceborn may form, one of which has yet to stray from their original purpose, but now hundreds of miles from their den. The only currently known source of their frost giant's knowledge, young isolated Iceborn find themselves in the company of adventurers frequently, viewing them as a useful tool to increase their chances of reuniting with any other Iceborn in their group and returning to their home beyond the mountains. Iceborn are a wellspring of knowledge, and this intelligence makes them excellent wizards. Alternatively, their extensive understanding of tools, languages, and instruments makes them a versatile and flexible addition to any adventuring party, filling the role of skill-based bards and rogues easily. Of course, when all else fails, a raging fighter or barbarian of ice and snow can never be wrong. For our third race, we travel offshore, hidden beneath the turbulent waves of Therenor's coasts. It's here we encounter a truly unique civilization, one whose simple role is all that stands between life and death on Therenor's shores. Large gastropodal humanoids which travel the various reefs among the shallows, the Stikkemar are a curious and otherworldly race. One of the more alien to be found in Therenor, they migrate against the ocean current, slithering along the seafloor and harvesting kelp and shellfish as they travel. In times of low food, they wave about their 6 elongated arms. Covered in pinnules near the tips, the arms filter plankton, algae, and debris from the water, allowing the Stikkemar to feed as they travel. One of their more notable features is their hardened shells, just large enough to protect the vitals and to squeeze in one's head. Should an aquatic beast attempt to pry the Stikkemar out, they may risk being envenomed, the spines along their shells either secreting or injecting a potent toxin. Despite their natural defenses, Therenor's reefs have all manner of predators who would be more than willing to endure a little toxin for such a large meal. And so the Stikkemar aren't just traveling in search of food, but in search of someone, namely a storm giant polyp. Once they reach a certain stage of life, storm giant polyps grow too big to keep themselves sustained through filter feeding. Emitting a distress call which echoes for miles beneath the waves, the stationary polyp calls for help, and the Stikkemar are among the first to answer. A roving band of Stikkemar will settle down and dedicate most of their waking hours to caring for a polyp, which emits a deep rumble that pacifies the seas around it and exposes its denizens' true intentions. The Stikkemar take full advantage of the lack of predators that come with a happy polyp, building entire communities around the young storm giant as it grows. Stikkemar have developed a culture of extreme honesty as a result of the storm giant polyp's zone of truth, which renders them incapable of telling falsehoods. So accustomed they are to the giant's presence that even outside of its influence, Stikkemar have tremendous difficulty lying. Shady Stikkemar make attempts to surpass this cultural burden by speaking evasively, skirting around falsehoods with vague responses. Inevitably, these Stikkemar weed themselves out of their own communities. Taking care of a polyp is more than just feeding it, their ever-curious minds yearning for sustenance. Stikkemar routinely travel to neighboring communities both on land and at sea, to trade, share stories, and learn of local gossip, bringing the tales back home to share with their polyp. Should the Stikkemar fail to keep the storm giant content, its rumbles will cease, and the community they have worked so tirelessly to build will be open once more to the ocean's predators. These Stikkemar may flee the seas, establishing a small settlement along the coastline, where they're more likely to encounter smallfolk. A polyp can remain in this stage for nearly 200 years before entering the Medusa stage of their life, splitting from their shell and descending into the depths. The shell left behind will become the basis of a new reef, one of which is overflowing with Therenor's primal energy and continues to exude its pacifying aura. This exchange between smallfolk and giant is a mutually beneficial one, the giant having been taken care of in its most vulnerable stages of life, and the Stikkemar have earned themselves a permanently tranquil place to call their home. As a Stikkemar, you gain the following racial traits. Your charisma score increases by 2, and your constitution score increases by 1. If you're using the 2024 ability score rules, increase one stat by 2 and another by 1, or increase 3 stats by 1. Additionally, you know how to speak the languages Common and Aquan. If you're using 2024 rules, pick Common and 2 standard languages of your choice that fit your backstory. Your creature type is a humanoid, your size is medium, and you have a walk speed of 30 feet. Your first racial trait is amphibious. You can breathe underwater. Additionally, you have a swim speed equal to your walk speed, as well as a climb speed equal to 10 feet. Your second racial trait is pelagic bulwark. When a creature that you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to redirect the attack to you instead. The creature must also succeed a DC 8 plus proficiency plus constitution saving throw, or take 1d4 piercing damage and become poisoned for 1 minute. A poisoned creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. As a Stikkemar, you also gain the racial trait Sturdy Whirl. Your shell is a formidable defense from the dangers of the coasts, constantly secreting a nacre-like substance to patch up cracks and repair external damage. After a short or long rest, you gain temporary HP equal to half your level. When you gain this temporary HP, you also receive a +2 bonus to your armor class. You lose this armor class bonus once you have taken an amount of damage equivalent to the temporary HP you've gained. The Stikkemar also gain access to the racial trait Deep Cleanse. Once per long rest, you can tend to yourself or an allied creature with your pinnules, cleansing it of any parasites or toxins. You remove 1 disease or poison afflicting the targeted creature. Additionally, if the target is a friendly creature other than yourself, you can choose to allow the creature to spend 1 of your hit die, roll it, and regain a number of hit points equal to your hit die plus your constitution modifier, so long as you have an available hit die to give. If you choose to forfeit 1 of your hit die in this way, the temporary HP from the next use of your Sturdy Whirl ability is instead equal to your level. Once you've used this feature, you cannot use it again until you've finished a long rest. Your final Stikkemar racial trait is Culture of Honesty. You have disadvantage on charisma checks which require you to lie. A Stikkemar may travel beyond the coastline and pursue a life of adventuring for many reasons. Perhaps they were routinely tasked with trading with their neighbors, only to return home one day to find a ravaged community. Maybe a Stikkemar spent their whole life caring for their polyp, and once it had finally grown and moved on, they felt it was time for them to move on as well. You could even play as a Stikkemar who was forced out of their community for repeated falsehoods. Whatever your background, Stikkemar make for phenomenal clerics and fighters, with numerous ways to bolster their defenses, heal their allies, and sustain themselves throughout the adventuring day. Our final Therenor race is not 1, but 6. Too small to walk among their primordial ancestors, yet too large to settle amongst the small folk. Half-giants are an incredibly rare group which struggle to find their place within Therenor. I would love to cover each half-giant in depth in their own separate video, but I couldn't dare forget to mention them here, so I'll go over it very briefly. Whether created through the manipulation of ancient magic or born from the direct offspring of giant smallfolk unions, these lumbering titans possess both the unmatched strength of their giant blood as well as the astute intelligence of many of Therenor's smaller races. While they generally share a strong resemblance to their giant parents, half-giants don't inherit much of their magic features, beyond an inherent resistance to their associated elements. What they do receive, however, is size. Your average half-giant is staggering 8.5 to 9 feet tall and weighing hundreds of pounds. Even as a newborn, such a colossal being requires many hours of specialized care and plenty of food. For this reason, most half-giants spend their formative years among other giants, both to lessen the burden on whatever smallfolk town may have been responsible for nourishing them, and so they may be provided an opportunity to grow into their giant roots. Half-giants are quick to recognize the differences among their full giant kin, and while some may fully embrace their uniqueness and the struggles which come with it, many choose to depart once they are fully grown in search of belonging elsewhere, usually among the smallfolk, which view them in both awe and terror. For smallfolk, half-giants are uncomfortably large. Armor, weapons, runes and inns, and even bountiful feasts seemingly too small for your average half-giant. Half-giants are also a constant reminder of the recent tensions between the two races. As a half-giant, you gain access to the following racial traits. Your strength score increases by 2, and your constitution score increases by 1. Alternatively, you can increase one score by 2 and increase a different score by 1, or increase 3 different scores by 1. Your creature type is humanoid, though you are considered a giant for any prerequisite or effect that requires you to be a giant. As a half-giant, you know the languages Common and Giant. Your size is medium, and you have a walking speed of 35 feet. The half-giant's first racial trait, Jotunblod, gives them resistance to a damage type depending on their parent giant. Acid for hill giants, poison for stone giants, fire for fire giants, cold for frost giants, thunder for cloud giants, and lightning for storm giants. The half-giant's second racial trait, Trebuchet, gives them bonuses to their improvised weapons. For instance, they gain proficiency with improvised weapons. The damage die when using improvised weapons increases to 1d6, and the distance you can throw an improvised weapon increases to 60 feet or 240 feet with disadvantage. The half-giant's third racial trait is Snatch. Your giant stature makes grappling foes smaller than you easier. You have advantage on initiating a grapple against creatures your size or smaller. Additionally, you can initiate an unarmed grapple on a target up to a range of 10 feet, and you do not suffer from grapple-induced movement penalties if the creature you are grappling is at least one size smaller than you are. As a half-giant, your fourth racial trait is Toss. When you successfully initiate a grapple against a creature, you may choose to instead end the grapple condition early and throw the creature up to 15 feet in a direction of your choice. The creature takes fall damage as it would normally and lands prone. You can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Half-giant's final racial trait, Powerful Build. You count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight you can push, drag, or lift. Half-giants sit within the rift between two races, pulled both ways by their lineage. The struggle within every half-giant's heart is one of belonging, and while every half-giant has their own equally unique origin, Most see their situations as a reason to carve out their own paths as adventurers. Maybe you're the descendant of a cloud giant and a noble, living proof of an alliance or debt paid between two houses, tasked with developing your own manor. Perhaps you're the descendant of a hill or storm giant, brought into existence through the eccentric will of a powerful wizard, who treats you like their own child, now encouraging you to explore the world. You may even be living proof that coexistence between the races is possible, son of a sand elf and fire giant who have spent centuries with one another only at dusk and dawn, daughter of a frost giant whose giant hunter partner braved icy storms for months to complete a mating ritual for the beast they thought they hated. Or the child of a dwarf and stone giant, their love painstakingly sculpted and given form as you. However you have come to be, half-giants make for formidable, reliable companions, shining in roles where they could flaunt their size and strength. A half-giant ranger stripped of their weapons proves just as deadly in a bar fight without their bow, hurling chairs, plates, and tankards of ale with deadly precision. And any durable class like a paladin or fighter can easily control the flow of a fight, locking down important targets with a grapple, tossing enemies aside, or snatching a surrounded ally, carrying them out of harm's way. And that's our new races in Therenor. If you found any of them interesting and have been inspired to develop an NPC or PC within the realm, we heavily encourage you to tell us about it in the comments and over on Discord. Like last time, we will be hosting an art and writing contest in the Discord, where artists and writers are tasked with drawing their characters or creating a narrative piece that recounts the events leading up to that character becoming an adventurer. The contest officially starts when this video goes live and will run for 1 month. Lee and I are looking forward to your submissions, and we can't wait to see what you guys make. Thank you for watching, and until next time.